Let me ask you something. What if I told you that your destiny, the thing you worry about, the thing you pray about, the thing that keeps you awake at night, can actually be changed? Not by something grand, not by something impossible, but by 3 simple deeds that most of us overlook every single day. We often think our future is fixed, that what is written is already sealed. But do you know that Allah, in His infinite mercy, has given you doors that can transform what you thought was unchangeable? And the question is, are you using them, or are you walking past them every day without even realizing? Because sometimes the difference between a life filled with blessing and a life filled with struggle is not years of effort. It is a single sincere moment, a single action done with a heart that is truly present with Allah. So today, I want you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, because these 3 deeds, if you truly understand them, if you truly live them, they will not just change your days, they will change your destiny. There is something deeply personal about the moment you raise your hands and call upon Allah. It is a moment that no one else can fully see, no one else can fully understand, and yet it is one of the most powerful moments in your life. Because in that moment, you are not speaking into emptiness, you are not whispering into silence, you are standing before the one who created you, who knows you better than you know yourself, who hears every unspoken word, every trembling in your voice, every tear that falls even before it leaves your eyes. And yet, many of us underestimate this moment. We treat dua as something secondary, something we turn to only when everything else has failed, as if it is a last resort rather than the first door we should knock on. We live our lives trying to control everything. We plan, we calculate, we worry, we overthink. We carry burdens that were never meant for us to carry alone. And in the middle of all of that, we forget that there is a direct connection between us and Allah that requires no appointment, no permission, no intermediary. A connection that is always open, always accessible, always waiting for us to turn back. But the question is not whether Allah hears, because He always does. The question is whether we truly believe that our dua has the power to change anything. Because when you look at your life, there are things that feel fixed. There are situations that seem unchangeable. There are hardships that feel like they have no end. And slowly, without even realizing it, a quiet doubt can settle in your heart. You begin to wonder, what is the point of asking if everything is already written? What is the point of making dua if the outcome will be the same? And this is where many hearts begin to drift, not because they stopped believing in Allah, but because they stopped believing in the impact of their own dua. But what if the very thing you think cannot change is the exact thing Allah is waiting for you to ask about? What if your dua is not just a request, but a means through which your destiny is shaped? Because in our tradition, we are taught something incredibly profound, that dua has the ability to change what has been decreed. Not because Allah changes His knowledge, but because He, in His wisdom, has already written that your dua would be part of that outcome, that your turning back to Him, your asking, your pleading, your sincerity would be the reason something shifts in your life. And when you begin to understand this, your entire perspective changes. Dua is no longer something small. It is no longer something optional. It becomes essential. It becomes powerful. It becomes the very tool that connects your effort to Allah's will. But this power of dua is not just in the words you say. It is not in how long your dua is or how eloquent it sounds. It is in the state of your heart when you make it. Because Allah does not look at your words, He looks at your heart. He looks at how present you are with Him. He looks at whether you are truly relying on Him or just going through the motions. And this is why 2 people can make the same dua with the same words and have completely different outcomes. Because one is speaking from a place of habit, and the other is speaking from a place of deep need, deep humility, and deep trust. Think about the moments when you feel completely broken, when everything feels heavy, when you have reached a point where you realize you have no control. Those are often the moments when your dua is the most sincere. Because in those moments, all the layers of distraction fall away, all the illusions of control disappear, and you stand before Allah as you truly are, weak, in need, completely dependent. And it is in that state that your dua carries a weight that cannot be measured. But the beauty of Islam is that you do not have to wait until you are broken to reach that level of sincerity. You can train your heart to turn to Allah in every state, in ease and in hardship, in happiness and in sadness, in moments of certainty and moments of confusion. Because the more you turn to Allah consistently, the more your heart becomes attached to Him, and the more your dua becomes real. And yet, one of the biggest struggles people face is the delay in response. You make dua and you wait, you ask again, and nothing seems to change. Days pass, months pass, sometimes even years pass, and you begin to feel that maybe your dua is not being answered. But this is where your understanding of Allah needs to deepen. Because a delay does not mean a rejection. A delay does not mean your dua is ignored. A delay is often part of the answer itself, because Allah, in His infinite wisdom, knows what you do not know. He sees the bigger picture that you cannot see. He knows the timing that is best for you, even when you are convinced that you are ready now. And sometimes what you are asking for is not good for you at that moment, even if it looks like it is. So Allah, out of His mercy, delays it, redirects it, or replaces it with something better. And sometimes the answer to your dua is not in receiving what you asked for, but in becoming the person who can handle it. Because there are things we ask for that require a level of strength, patience, and faith that we do not yet have. So Allah takes you through a journey that shapes you, that refines you, that brings you closer to Him. And along that journey, your dua is still being answered, just not in the way you expected. There is also something else that we often forget. That every time you make dua, something is happening, even if you cannot see it. Either Allah is giving you what you asked for, or He is removing a harm that you do not even know about, or He is saving that dua for you in the hereafter. So, in every situation, your dua is never wasted. It is always heard. It is always responded to. It is always valuable. And imagine standing before Allah on the Day of Judgment and seeing mountains of reward for duas that you thought were never answered. Duas that you made in quiet moments, in tears, in hope, thinking that nothing changed. And then you realize that Allah was preserving something for you that is far greater than what you were asking for in this world. This is why you never stop making dua. You never let shaitan convince you that there is no point. You never allow doubt to take over your heart. Because the moment you stop making dua is not just the moment you stop asking, it is the moment you begin to disconnect from the one who controls everything. And part of the beauty of dua is that it is not restricted. You can ask Allah for anything, big or small, worldly or spiritual. You can speak to Him in your own words. You can cry to Him. You can repeat the same dua over and over again. Because Allah loves to hear from you. He loves your persistence. He loves when you keep coming back, even after feeling like nothing has changed. And sometimes the transformation is not just in your circumstances, it is in your heart. You begin to feel a peace that you did not have before. You begin to feel a closeness to Allah that you cannot explain. You begin to feel that even if things are not perfect, you are okay. And that in itself is a form of answered dua. Because at the end of the day, the greatest gift of dua is not just getting what you want. It is knowing who you are asking. It is building that relationship with Allah. It is realizing that you are never alone, never unheard, never forgotten, and that no matter how complicated your situation is, no matter how heavy your heart feels, there is always a way forward when you turn back to Him. And the more you understand this, the more your entire life changes. Your worries become lighter, your heart becomes stronger, and your hope becomes firm because you know that you are connected to the one who has power over all things. There is a quiet misunderstanding that many of us carry in our hearts, and it shapes the way we live our lives without us even realizing it. We think that change has to be big. We think that in order for our lives to transform, we need to do something extraordinary, something dramatic, something that completely shifts everything overnight. And because of this belief, we often delay doing good. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect motivation, the perfect version of ourselves. We tell ourselves that one day we will become better, one day we will become more consistent, one day we will get closer to Allah. But that one day keeps moving further and further away, and in the middle of all of this waiting, we overlook something so simple, yet so powerful, that the most beloved deeds to Allah are not the biggest, not the most impressive, not the ones that people praise you for. They are the small deeds that you do consistently, quietly, sincerely, even when no one sees you, even when no one acknowledges you. Deeds that may seem insignificant in your eyes, but carry immense weight in the sight of Allah. Because consistency is not just about repetition, it is about commitment. It is about showing Allah that no matter how small the action is, you are choosing Him again and again, every single day. And there is something deeply transformative about that choice, because every time you choose a small good deed, you are shaping your heart. You are training your soul. You are building a relationship with Allah that is rooted in sincerity, not in moments of emotion that come and go. Think about how easy it is to do something small. A quiet dhikr while you are walking, a short dua before you sleep, a moment of gratitude when something goes right, a small act of kindness that no one else notices. These are not difficult actions. They do not require a lot of time or effort. And yet, they have the power to completely change the direction of your life if you remain consistent with them. Because small deeds, when done regularly, are not small anymore. They accumulate, they grow, they become a part of who you are. And over time, they begin to shape your character, your mindset, your connection with Allah. Without you even realizing it, you start to become someone who remembers Allah often, someone who turns to Him naturally, someone whose heart is attached to Him in a way that feels effortless. But the challenge is not in starting. The challenge is in continuing. Because there will be days when you feel motivated, when everything feels easy, when your heart feels light. And then there will be days when you feel tired, distracted, overwhelmed. Days when even the smallest act of worship feels heavy. And it is in those moments that your sincerity is tested. Because consistency is not about doing something only when you feel like it. It is about doing it even when you do not feel like it. And this is where the real transformation happens. Because when you push yourself to continue a small good deed despite your feelings, you are not just performing an action, you are disciplining your soul. You are teaching yourself that your relationship with Allah is not dependent on your mood, not dependent on your circumstances, but rooted in something deeper. And Allah sees that effort. He sees the struggle behind that small action. He sees the moments when you choose to remember Him even when your heart feels distant. And it is those moments that carry immense value, even if they seem insignificant to you. Another beautiful aspect of small consistent deeds is that they protect you. They create a shield around your heart. Because when you are regularly connected to Allah, even in small ways, it becomes harder for your heart to drift too far. It becomes harder for you to completely lose your direction. You may slip, you may make mistakes, you may have moments of you, but those small, consistent deeds act as anchors that pull you back. And sometimes, the impact of these deeds is not immediate. You may not feel a sudden change, you may not see instant results, but slowly, quietly, something begins to shift within you. Your patience increases, your reactions become calmer, your perspective changes. You begin to see things differently, and you realize that these small actions were working within you all along, shaping you in ways you could not see at first. There is also a deep mercy in the fact that Allah does not burden you with what you cannot handle. He does not ask you to do everything at once. He does not expect perfection. What He asks for is sincerity and consistency, even if it is little, even if it seems insignificant. Because Allah looks at your effort, not just your outcome. And this should bring a sense of relief to your heart, because it means that no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how far you feel, you can always start. You do not need to wait until you become a different person. You do not need to fix everything in your life before you turn to Allah. You can begin with something small, something manageable, something that you can sustain. And as you continue, you will find that these small deeds begin to open doors for you, doors that you did not even know existed. Your heart becomes more receptive to good. Your desire to do more increases naturally. What once felt difficult begins to feel easy, and what once felt like a burden begins to feel like a source of peace. But there is one condition that gives these small deeds their true power, and that is sincerity. Because a small deed done for the sake of Allah carries more weight than a large deed done for any other reason. When your intention is pure, when your focus is on pleasing Allah alone, even the simplest action becomes beauty in His sight, and sincerity is something that you continuously work on. It is not something that you achieve once and then forget about. It is something that you renew every day, every moment. You remind yourself why you are doing what you are doing. You bring your heart back when it becomes distracted. You make your intention clear again and again. And when sincerity and consistency come together, they create something powerful. They create a path that leads you closer to Allah step by step, moment by moment. A path that may seem slow, but is steady. A path that may seem small, but is meaningful. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how fast you move, it is about the direction you are moving in. And small, consistent deeds ensure that you are always moving in the right direction, even if the steps are small. And imagine standing before Allah and seeing the weight of those small actions that you almost overlooked. The moments of remembrance, the quiet du'as, the simple acts of kindness, the efforts that no one else saw. And you realize that those were the very things that built your path, that shaped your destiny, that brought you closer to Him in ways you never fully understood. And slowly you begin to understand that nothing you do for the sake of Allah is ever truly small, and that the simplest actions, when done with sincerity and consistency, carry a weight that can change everything in ways you never imagined